Failing wasn't a card. It wasn't in the cards. We worked for 3 years with no days off, morning till night, my partner and I.
That's what you do.
But after about 2 years of a grind, an unbelievable grind, the phone started to ring off the hook. And someone called me and said, hey, you got a review in the paper, and it's a giant spread on how incredible your restaurant is.
Welcome to Entrepreneur Success Stories. I'm Jimbo, Senior Market Advisor, Old Wise Ones, longtime entrepreneur, and host of the program. Today we have a special guest. Please welcome Mark Schneider.
Hi, thank you very much.
Well, it's nice to have you. You've been a serial entrepreneur or a longtime entrepreneur or lifetime entrepreneur.
I have.
We just started talking off camera about when you started. Tell me about your very first, was it a shoe shine?
Well, actually, I think I was cleaning my dad's liquor store was my first one.
Yeah.
On
Did he pay you to do it?
He paid me. Yes, he did.
Oh, good for him.
I think I was 6 years old.
Where were you raised?
City of Commerce.
Okay, right in
Near
LA.
LA.
Okay.
And he had me come in there, clean that store, sweep it up, clean all the bottles, move all the bottles.
That's when the glass bottles were glass bottles, right?
Absolutely. I think my second one, or maybe even the same time, I was shining shoes. I lived in LA, and it was a pretty busy area, a lot of traffic. So there were people sitting on bus stations, and I would go there with my shoe shining equipment and ask people if they...
Who taught you to do that? Where'd you get the idea?
I just thought it can't be that hard. I bought myself a box with all the little tools and brushes and paints. And
How'd you come up with pricing? How'd you know what to charge? Even? You remember?
I don't even remember.
Yeah. So you just tried something until somebody wouldn't pay anymore, and then that's where you stopped, right, with the pricing?
Something like that.
How about $10? How about $1?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, back then, right?
$1.
$1 was a lot. You're pretty close to my age. My assumption is that your parents went through the Depression era.
Yes.
So they had that Depression era, what I would call fiscal responsibility. That was before any of the safety net stuff, any of the social safety nets or anything else. And people were losing jobs, and having a job was critical, and being able to make money was critical. And what I remember about those years is my dad never was bought anything on time. If you couldn't afford it, you couldn't buy it. You valued work. You valued going out and making money.
Absolutely.
Is that kind of how you were raised too?
Absolutely. In fact, even when I had my own restaurant and business with 35 employees, I was so happy to have a job. I owned the business, but I was so happy to have a job. And I've always felt that way.
Well, let's go back to age 6, okay? So now you're growing up in LA. What high school did you go to in LA?
Hamilton High School.
Hamilton High, okay. Then college?
University of Hawaii.
University of Hawaii, okay.
Yes.
And you went there with the idea of being what?
I think I went to college more because it was the right thing to do. I didn't have a definite goal. I didn't know if I wanted to be an accountant or a sociologist.
Wasn't sure.
Okay. Wasn't sure. So it was just
the parents
kind of
expected you to go to college?
Exactly. So there was no choice for me.
Yeah,
I had to go to college.
Mine either.
Okay. You have to be a doctor or a lawyer, or nothing else matters.
Any of those ring a bell to you when they were telling you that's what you were going to do?
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
I was a finance major at SC, and my dad, said go to work for IBM and Xerox. And when I went to the interviews, I went, I don't want to do this.
I know.
A little late.
I know.
So what did you graduate with? What was your degree?
I was actually more interested in business, but I thought that I wanted to help people. That was another thing that I wanted to do. And so I took sociology classes with the intention of becoming a social worker.
Counselor of some sort and helping people.
Yeah. So I got my degree in sociology with a minor in business. And then I went to USC, believe it or not.
Oh, you went to University of Spoiled Children, just like I did.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, University of Southern California. We don't want to.
Right. I went there for my master's in social work.
So you were serious about being a counselor at that point. If you're going to go to grad school.
I was very serious about that. But at the same time, I was working and managing restaurants. So I was doing both.
Oh, so you got your first kind of intro to restaurants where?
In high school as a busboy, not too far from my house. I got another job a couple of years later being a cook, and I graduated. And then after high school, and I went to college, I got a job there at Chuck's Steakhouse being a cook. I learned everything. I mean, waited
From the-
tables, I tended bar, I was a cook. Then when I graduated, I came back to the mainland, back to California. Someone asked me to manage a restaurant, Scotch and Sirloin, on Sepulveda and Pico. And so I managed that.
So from a management standpoint, so you were kind of the hiring and firing and making sure everything happened right.
Yes.
So now you're not at the worker level, you're at the almost owner level or top level. Manager
Pretty
level.
close. One thing led to another. I was going to graduate school, but I was also being pulled into the restaurant management, and I had partners that were interested in opening up a restaurant.
That's like a big leap from managing a restaurant to having investors.
Well, I'm sorry. He became my partner.
Oh.
The owner, which was a very close friend and still is, he owned the restaurant. I managed the restaurant. So he wanted to open up another restaurant. Subsequently, my parents had moved to San Diego and kept telling me that there aren't many seafood restaurants down here. You really ought to come down here and check it out. And so I started to come down here. That was in the late 70s. The only thing here was Anthony's seafood restaurant. And so they were pretty right on.
So it's interesting how your parents went from doctor, lawyer to sociologist. Well, maybe restaurateur is as good as sociologist, and he's interested in it. So let's go there. And they were the ones that gave you the unique selling proposition or the angle why a restaurant will do well.
Well, they saw that I wasn't going to be a doctor or lawyer. Okay, so that was not even in the cards.
Right.
And then I was doing all this restaurant work, and so they got on board with that, and they encouraged me to come down to San
they also
Diego.
saw that you did the job. You were in those positions. So it's not like you're choosing a field that you didn't know anything about. You learned it from the bottom up.
Pretty much 15 years experience in the restaurant before I did mine.
You had a good
Wash
idea
my
of how
share
it
of
worked.
dishes, busboy, waiter, bartender, manager, cook, everything I did.
Did you know at the time that it was one of the world's hardest businesses ever to manage and run? Or did you learn that after the fact?
I don't think I took that in consideration. I mean, it was part of the job.
Probably in your 20s at the time?
I was in my 30s.
Early
I was
30s,
30 when
okay.
I opened my place.
Okay.
Looking back, I think I would never do it again. It's too difficult, too risky. But I didn't care at the time because I had so much ambition and so much drive. Failing wasn't a card. It wasn't in the cards. I mean, it was brutal. We worked for 3 years with no days off, morning till night, my partner and I.
That's what you do.
And that's what we did.
First of all, what was the name of the restaurant?
The restaurant was called The Fish Merchant.
And you came up with the name because it's pretty clear about what it is.
Uh-huh.
And that's what you wanted to.
It was in Allied Gardens.
Okay.
It's near La Mesa here in East County, San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So we opened in 1980. And for the first months, I mean, we were doing 20 or 30 meals a night. We had no advertising budget. Our advertising budget consisted of us making flyers.
Right.
And when we weren't working, going out and handing them out or putting them on cars.
Kind of guerrilla marketing, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. But after about 2 years of a grind, I mean, an unbelievable grind, the phone started to ring off the hook. Couldn't figure out what the hell's going on.
Just all of a sudden? Or was it a
One
slow
day.
burn?
One day, all of a sudden, the phone was ringing nonstop. And someone called me and said, hey, you got a review in the paper, The Reader from Eleanor Woodmer. And it's a giant spread on how incredible your restaurant is. And from that day on, I went from like 30 meals a day to 300. It was absolutely phenomenal. It took off. I went from like 7 employees to 25 employees.
Let's back up a little bit. So I want to get to the issue of when you're first starting out in goal setting. When you first started, did you say I wanted 30 meals a day or I wanted 40? Did you set goals or did you just try and go and see what happened?
No, I don't think the goals were to pay the bills and make a living.
To get to break-even point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, my partner and I, we not only prepared all the food, fish, salads, the dressings, everything came in the back door. He and I accepted it or didn't accept it, made the food, cut the fish, made the dressings, everything. I don't even know if I had time to think about, we have to do this, we have to do that as far as numbers. It's just started to happen. It was a grind, no days off, from morning to night, literally 7 days a week. until that day when that phone started to ring, and we got.
Now,
that.
did you set this interviewer up to come in and
No,
review?
I didn't know she was
She
there.
just did it on her own. She
came
happened to
around.
love the food. Thank God.
Yes, and I didn't know she had been there, and I didn't know who it was.
Well, it's a nice way to find out,
It
isn't it? By
was
the
a
phone.
great way to find out. It was a dream. Looking back, it's a dream.
Well, we need to take a little bit of break here. That's a good place to take a break at a dream.